Welcome to All Over Voiceover with Kip VH. Today, my guest in the house is the lovely, the talented Mr. Rick Wasserman.
You called me lovely.
You are. You are a lovely person.
I'm blushing. I'm telling you I'm blushing. You can't see it, but I am. I'm blushing.
It's clear. Well, you just took a selfie, but you weren't blushing yet.
No, that was pre-blush.
That was
I think that's what they call it.
Pre-blush. And, yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming out.
This is great, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been so much fun, and the opportunity just to sit down and talk with folks, I don't know.
It's kind of VOBS. That's sort of what this is. That's what we should call it.
I think that's great.
Welcome to VOBS.
We're going to sit around it. Now, I just saw you do that magic trick.
Yes.
So you've been occupying how long have you been doing? So just to give you some background on it, Rick posted a YouTube video where you did a card flip. What's it called?
It was just goofiness. So here's my deal. My deal is I'm in the booth a lot.
Yeah.
And I mostly do promos. So usually you're in the booth for no more than 5-10 minutes. They're fast, right?
Yeah.
But then you're out. But then you're going to be back in fairly soon.
Yeah.
So I usually have 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes at the most before I know I'll be going back in. So in that time, I have to do something. So can't do that. No, stop. You should see the hand gestures. So I can't, you go to the gym. It's not time you can't have a whole meal. You can't go. So I just do card tricks. That's what I do. I sit and do card tricks. So once in a while, if I do something that impresses me, I'll take out my phone and record myself doing it.
Do you do it for camera? Does that help you? Like if you use your little camera on your eye?
Oh, as a mirror.
Yeah.
I actually have, I have a couple mirrors around so I can watch myself because a lot of card magic has to do with angles. I hope I'm not giving anything away. But it is kind of interesting to see also because my camera seems to be on a tiny delay.
Huh.
Yeah. So I'll do it. I'll do the prestige part. I'll do the kind of trick and I'll see it happen. And then a fraction of a second later, I'll see it on TV and impress myself. Hey, look at me go. Yeah. So
I saw you do, Rick did a show at the Malibu Playhouse where you played Harry Houdini.
Yes.
And was that where your magic journey sort of began with that production?
It kind of picked up again from there. So I've been interested. So I grew up the first 7 years of my life in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah.
Which is not terribly far from Colon, Michigan. Unfortunate name, but a fortunate place. They are the magic capital of the world.
What?
Colon, Michigan. I mean, everything in that town that sits still has rabbits on it. It's the whole town is about magic.
No idea.
Colon, Michigan. And it's fascinating. I remember as a kid getting the catalog to some of the magic stores there, and it was like the phone book, right? This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
Big catalog, open it up, and it made the back of comic books that often have a few tricks on it look like nothing.
Yeah.
It was just a scrap. This was like a whole phone book full of magic tricks. So interested as a kid, my father was cool enough that he was interested too. He had a good friend of his who was a dentist.
Okay.
And a fairly shy guy, but no matter where he was, if you saw him, you could say, hey, could you do a trick? And he'd have a deck of cards on him. And that alone already seemed magical. He always had a deck of cards and he would always do some incredible magic. So I had some influences. He took me to see, Copperfield, Harry Blackstone Jr., Doug Henning.
Doug Henning.
Oh, yeah, I saw Doug Henning.
The World of Illusion.
That's right, with mustache and teeth included.
That's right. My lovely wife, Debbie.
Which was great. And then we moved to Philly.
Okay.
And Philly is the birthplace of Penn and Teller. So I saw Penn and Teller a ton. And that was great. And then when I was in high school, I had a buddy who did all kinds of juggling and hand balancing and all kinds of neat stuff. And he and I used to do children's parties.
Oh, wow.
I would do magic and he would do that. So we did that. And that was kind of our high school job.
Yeah.
And then it all went away. And I just didn't kind of keep up with it. It all kind of went away.
Yeah.
And then I get to play Houdini. And now I'm an older guy. I'm in my 40s. And I thought, is it too late? It's not too late. I had two coaches on that show, one for close-up and one for kind of stunts. Straightjacket stuff. And I just kept up. And my wife, Tamara, was kind enough. She got me lessons with this guy who's on the board at Magic Castle. It was just amazing. So, and I got to perform at Magic Castle.
Oh, you did?
Yes, which was it was very bucket listy. It felt very bucket listy.
That's awesome. What do you do? Like, is it like, I mean, with a magic show that you might do at the Magic Castle, for example, is it like a 5-minute set, or do you put together like a 20-minute presentation, or what'd you do?
Yeah, no, that particular time I performed, it was as Houdini.
Oh.
So, and I had to do tricks. So we did like a spirit cabinet kind of debunking thing. And, but what was so strange about it is, I don't know if you've been to have you been to the Magic Castle?
Not yet,
okay,
no.
We got to go sometime.
Yeah,
we'll
I'd love
go.
to.
We'll definitely go. But, on certain nights, it's just members only. And most of these members are magicians. You can tell they've got a little pin on their lapel, and so it was magicians night. So the theater is filled with just magicians, and it's me, not really a magician, performing Houdini's tricks for all these people. Yeah. So I'm sure I went through several changes of pants and, before I got my nerve up. But so that was very specific. I'm auditioning for membership. And it's an audition like any audition. It's kind of like, there's 3 or 4 people there, and you go in, and you got like 12 minutes and show them 3 tricks. And
I see.
It doesn't mean you'll get an act. It doesn't mean you'll get to perform there, but it means that if you happen to pull out cards, you're not going to embarrass the castle.
I understand.
While you're there.
I understand. Yeah. It's like a good housekeeping seal of approval.
Absolutely.
This person is authorized by the Magic Castle to say, yes, we agree.
And I get to walk around and really impress everyone. You know how many baristas will find out that I'm in the Magic Castle?
Do you get to have a pin? Will you get a pin? Or
I'll get a pin. I will get a pin.
Dude.
You could probably buy them. You can probably
That's the
online.
coolest thing, though, especially to start with like this whole idea of like just being fascinated as a kid and the connection to your dad and something that you grew up with.
And I'm trying to show my kids, although my kids at this point are like, Dad, I don't want to take another card. I just can't. It's behind your hand. It's in your pocket. Like they're just so on to me now. So, and my wife is such a good sport about it, because one of the big ideas behind magic, or at least it is for me, is this kind of ham sandwich theory. I think I mentioned to you at one point, if you're walking down the street with someone and you pull out a ham sandwich, that might be fairly interesting to them. But if you're walking down the street with someone and they go, man, I'm hungry, and then you pull out a ham sandwich, it will blow their minds. Yeah. So for me, the best time to do any kind of magic is if it's not my idea.
Yeah.
So if someone says to me, like, they'll see some cards on my desk and they'll say, do you do magic? I'll go, not really. Oh, let me show you something. Right. That's perfect. I'm jumping up and down inside.
Right. Exactly.
So my wife's really good about this. So I'll be just kind of like hanging out while she's sewing or something, like standing there. She's like, do you want to show me something? Oh, sure. Maybe if you want to see something.
My BY was standing over you, flipping cards around.
That's why these rabbits are in my fists, and that's all. But it's been really good. It's something. It's something to do. Another thing to kind of focus on. It keeps my hands agile, kind of keeps your brain agile. Yeah. And I don't know how much you talk about this here, but I think about it a lot. The fact that if you are lucky enough and you're fortunate enough to do fairly well in voiceover, it means that you'll spend a good amount of time in an isolation booth.
Yes.
And it is effective. Not just keeping out sound, but it is isolating. And I'm very happy with where I am, and I'm very pleased with voiceover and everything about it. But you don't often see a lot of people. Unless you do big group reads. That's why doing like the Avengers and stuff with Chris and those guys, that's why that was so great, because we recorded that all together, all the Avengers in the room at the same time. So at least their sense of community. And I come from a theater background where there's a huge sense of community, collaborative effort, 101. But with voiceover, it's just me alone in a box.
Yeah.
So I find that magic is another kind of social conduit, just a means of kind of connecting to people. And I love that. I love that opportunity. That's actually one of the reasons I started teaching. I need to get out of the box once in a while, and connect to people.
I completely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's
it just got heavy in the studio.
It's okay. I like that about it. I think that's the truth of it. I think that's something that people, and we've had this conversation before, where people have this expectation of like, oh, well, look at old Rick Wasserman up there in his beautiful place, and he's got this awesome gig. And you go, yeah, the gig is great. I love the gig, but I'm alone.
Yeah, it gets a little lonely.
Yeah.
But
and you have your family. That's
wonderful. Like my family is there. They're very close, and I have that. But Yeah.
But it is. And it's one of the reasons I go into the talent agency. But I have the advantage of living 12 minutes away from my
You're
agency.
close.
So I
Yeah.
go in and read. And I try to stay on top of that. But it is that. And LA in itself is very isolating because you spend all of your time, if you're not at home or working, you're in your car in traffic.
Right.
And, like listening to Howard Stern becomes more important.
It does.
Or listening to, whether it's podcasting or whatever it is, you need that connection.
Yeah. I find it more and more. As I get older, I just kind of need people more.
Yeah.
And I'm getting good with that. I used to think that was a sign of weakness. Like, I don't need anybody. I can do it all by myself all day long in the booth, me and script and copy. But it feels good to talk to people. And now, so I'm the voice of AMC and I'm coming up on my 11th year.
Wow.
And I knew some of those producers when they had no kids and those kids are like in middle school or something. It's crazy to me. And they're not here. They're in New York. So
you know these people, but you don't know them.
But
you've never even put necessarily, you might Facebook friend them or something like that, but that's the extent of it.
And now with Skype and Zoom and all these kind of teleconferencing things, video conferencing, it's really made things a lot better in many ways. I actually have a camera on my computer, but I also have another camera in my booth.
Oh, nice.
Now, I don't have to, but I like for them to see me in there, just like they would if they were in a studio. So they can actually see me in there and they can see what I'm doing and, almost everything. Sometimes, you got to pick your nose or something.
Right, exactly.
Pardon me for a moment.
Put a shield up.
I have to. I do have to block. But I like that. I like that sense of, and by the way, if I ever have to audition or when I audition, it's always best to be directed. I want the contact.
Yes.
Obviously it's great to be directed, because whoever's directing you hopefully, has heard other people and they have insight about this. And, it's not in the direction, but they really want A, B, and C. And they can kind of give you some ideas of things to do. But it's also talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And I like talking to somebody.
Yeah.
That's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you get to do much directed auditions, or are most of the auditions that you go through at this point still kind of like, Rick, we need this by 1?
There is that. But my agents have always been really good about that. Like, if you want to be directed, call at this time, or let us know what time you want to ISDN, or let us know what time you want a phone patch. So they've always been really, really good about that.
That's fantastic.
I've lucked out with representation.
That's
really
great.
have. They're fantastic people.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now I know that you spent some time. All right. So here's a story that the audience doesn't necessarily know or need to know, but just backstory.
You're getting it.
Here it comes. Rick went to graduate school with my wife, Sherry.
Yeah.
So I've known about you for a long time. And then we met back when, you came to Chicago.
That's right.
And we hung out right when my baby was born. So I've known you as long as I've known my daughter.
Isn't that weird?
Really, really wild.
And we look exactly the same.
We look, you and my daughter look exactly the same. When Rick came to Chicago, he was an infant, and I wrapped him and carried him around the CSI exhibit.
Thank you for bundling me.
Swaddling. Welcome. But I know that you spent some time in New York, yes? Right after graduate school.
Yeah.
Not to, jump all over the timeline, but I'm curious about, did you make the I know that you were principally stage at that point, or what was your focus, and how did you make this transition to get into where you are?
Yeah, when Sherry and I, when we got out of grad school, we showcased in New York, and we all got representation. And then the weird thing about that is, as soon as you get representation, you start doing regional shows. Like, as soon as you settle in New York and you start doing your first catering job, then you go and do regional shows. And that's essentially what I did.
Okay.
But then at some point, I started doing shows in New York. So I started doing I did an off-Broadway show, and then then I was in Lion King.
Yeah.
And then once I was in Lion King, I would do I would shoot Law and Order during the day.
Okay.
And then do, the show at night. And then I was doing a lot of on-camera commercials. That was kind of like my life. I was doing that. I was the Zest soap guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I remember your scope spot. The scope spot ran.
Yeah. A lot of body kind of hygiene products. I don't know how to feel about that.
I have a theory about that, actually. I do. And it's because of, it's in your face. You are an extremely expressive person and have tremendous mastery over your this stuff. So it's interesting to me that you're into close-up magic as well.
That's interesting.
It's stupid, and I'm not trying to like. It's in that scope spot. It jumps out at me where at the very end of it, you rinse it, and it's this montage. It's like 7 or 8 people, and you do like a little. That's it.
Yeah.
And like that, to me, I watch it and go, that's how Rick booked that job. But it's also in where your strength as a commercial actor lives. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah, hey, I buy it. I love it.
But that's my grand theory.
Please. That's fantastic.
Camera commercial
career.
That's
all I was doing. I was kind of doing all those things. And I had thought, like Sherry and I, we had a guy from the Columbia School of Broadcasting.
Okay.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting? I can't remember. Something with a C. Came in and did like a weekend with us in grad school about voiceover. And that's kind of like all I knew at the time. But I always thought that I had like a deep voice and I could do voiceover. I thought maybe that was in my life, but nothing had happened. I didn't get a voiceover agent or no one was representing me. So I was having contract negotiations with my on-camera commercial agent and the voiceover agent walked by.
Wow.
That was it. He walked by and he said, "Do you do voiceover?" And I went, "No." And he went, "Come here," and pulled me out of the office. And that guy's still my manager. That's Jason Marks.
Jason Marks?
Jason Marks. Yeah, he used to be an agent at Don Buchwald.
No kidding.
Amazing, right? So then after that, I've been doing it ever since. And in fact, I was only doing, I don't know, it was like 6 months. I didn't book anything. I mean, not a nibble, nothing. I thought maybe this is not really for me. Maybe there's guys with deeper voices or I don't know what it takes. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But I was doing Lion King at the time, and I went in one day, and the regular booth director was not there. One of the assistants, like one of the agent's assistants was there, a guy named Stewart.
Okay.
Super good guy. I wish I was in contact with him today. Super good guy. But he was manning the booth. And I went in there, and he goes, "You got an audition?" I said, "Yeah, I'm supposed to come in here and audition for something." He goes, "What is it?" And I said, "I don't know." I showed it to him. He goes, "It's a promo." And I went, "What sort of thing is that?" He went, "Oh, well, it's a commercial for a TV show." So I went in and I read it and he went, "Rick, you're in Lion King." I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do it like Scar." I went, "Really?" "Do it like Scar." And I booked it. It was my first booking and it was to be the voice of The Wire on HBO.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's exactly how, but I mean, I didn't know what The Wire was. I didn't know, but I knew what HBO was and I thought that's gotta be a good thing. So that's what I did. That's how I started, but I didn't know anything. I mean, all I knew was from that weekend in grad school and then just 6 months of failing.
And there isn't any information really. I mean, there's more sources of information now.
Plenty,
but back then.
No, I mean, you could go to school for it.
Yes.
You know, you could go to, but it was really more for broadcasting, I think. It was, for radio and most of it you just had to learn on the job.
Yeah.
And I also think a lot of people, had know-how, but didn't know that they needed or people wanted them to share it. Like have a workshop, have a class, or have, that there was a strong demand for it. But, there is. And then flash forward many years and Chris Rock said, "You can make $1 million by doing it." And now everybody and their uncle is just crawling to do.
Yeah. And the opportunities are, it's
everywhere. I mean,
it is everywhere. I mean, it was in Toledo, Ohio when I started and it's still there. And, and things like voices.com and 123 and stuff make it possible for people to go ahead and do that kind of stuff.
You can, anybody can really give it a go. You can try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, to have longevity, you need to be more than just, a pretty voice. You need to be able to have control over your instrument.
You do. I think, I actually, when I teach, I have this thing I teach about, things that can make you a more successful voiceover performer. And I break them up into two things you can control and things you cannot control. So give over. You can't do anything about those things, but I'll make you aware of them. But a couple of things you can control is you can have a basic understanding of your instrument and how it works. Are your articulators, lips, teeth, tongue, throat, diaphragm, lungs, all right? You're just your instrument, how it works. You can have some cursory understanding of that. And you can understand how to process copy. Take a look at break it down, the script analysis and that, and integrating those things together to have a process. So if someone hands you a piece of copy, now I can apply a series of questions or rules or an outline and I can come up with a result that is altogether, rich storytelling, unique, clear, vivid, and sounds like me. Doesn't sound like me trying to be someone else. It sounds just like me.
Yeah.
So I think you can, those are things that will make you an effective voiceover performer, and they're within your control. You can learn to do that. Yeah. But I think one of the biggest things is, and this sounds, I don't know, this sounds like I'm, all I know is that I truly believe this. I think you have to be a good person. I think you have to be nice. I think you have to be respectful. All that stuff they always told you should be, you gotta be. That's what kind of keeps you working.
Yeah.
You must have run into this. We won't name names, but in every kind of creative profession, there are divas.
Yes.
Boy, are there divas in voiceover.
Yeah.
Boy, they're there. Boy, are they there. I've heard them. You've heard them. I don't know. I can't, there's no room for that. There's no room for that in any profession. I just have no stomach for that. Yeah. People are like, he's amazing talent. You kind of got to get to know him. No, I don't. I don't need to get to know him. I don't like that. You know, I'm not into that, but,
I'm with you.
You know what I mean?
You know, absolutely. I mean, I had this ridiculous, I think I told you this ridiculous sort of chance encounter with Harrison Ford one time.
Oh, I think I was there the day after.
Yeah. And we were over at Second City, and he came to see a show that I directed, and we were talking. And
was it a relative of his?
Yeah. It was his goddaughter was in the show I directed over at Second City, and he came to see this show, which was amazing. And then afterwards, we went down to Bordner's and shared chicken skewers and talked about. And we had just started teaching a voiceover class at Second City, just sort of a super like. So you want to get into voiceover? Right. This is a microphone.
Yeah.
This is how it works. But he said, and it's some of the greatest advice I think that I've heard, and it ties very much into what you just said, is that he's like, people don't understand that this is a group effort, and that our job is to serve the existential truth of the story. And that's all.
That's it.
That's it.
Right.
Our job is to be part of this group telling this story. And no one is more important and no one is any less.
Yeah, I love that.
And without the grip moving the C-stand and setting, and the gaffer plugging in those lights. Or the actor on set, we're all equal. And it's very socialist in that way, and it's true.
Wow, I kind of love that. That's great. He'll go places, that guy.
I think there's hope for him.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
It was weird to see him because he had just had his head shaved from that movie he did with, what was the movie he did with, like, was Ben Kingsley, I think? I forget what it was.
Gandhi. No.
Yes, it was Gandhi. It was a long time ago. I was 12. But but his hair was growing in, and it was
that's a new look.
But it was surreal. It was surreal.
It
I was closer than we are.
And you said,
and I'm sitting here.
Throw me the whip.
Well, then he walked by and said, "Adios, Cepito," and walked away. No, he asked me, how do you teach a voiceover class? And I was like, I don't know, I'm making it up as I go. And then he said, I wish someone would teach a class on what to do when you get on set. And I was like, okay, well, all right, Mr. On Set.
Yeah.
What's your curriculum for that?
Why doesn't he start a school? Come on.
Right?
I go to Harrison Ford School.
I go to Harrison Ford School.
Come on.
How to fly?
Yeah. I'm down with that.
So, but anyway, your point is really well taken. And I do feel like in the voiceover community, people on the whole are consistently just more sort of,
Come on. There's some great people in voiceover. So yesterday, so I'm with this Primetime Voices group. This is started by Joe Cipriano, an amazing voiceover guy and just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Super charitable and just a lovely human being. So he takes all these voiceover people, and this is a few years ago, and says, let's make a recording of us reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And everybody picks a few lines. And you could do them however you want to do them, in whatever voice you want to do it, and then we'll put it all together, and we'll get Greg Chun will do music for it. And so we did it, and it was great. And then the idea came, and all the proceeds will benefit this children's hospital.
Okay.
And then he had the idea, well, why don't we go to the children's hospital and tell the story live? And I thought, oh, that's great. So I went one year. So we go to Mattel Children's Hospital. It's part of UCLA.
Yeah.
And it's this specific floor, the Chase Child Life floor. And these kids are in a pretty bad way. And we go to each room and we start doing this. And now, I've not done anything like this. I'm a pretty selfish guy. I've not done anything nearly this nice or charitable or anything giving of my time. This is just me. So it was altogether new for me. But these voiceover people just kind of very freely gave their time. And look, it's not hard what we do, but you know, they just show up and they just do it and they love it. And it's hard to see who gets more out of it. You know, the kids or us.
Yeah.
It's incredibly enriching. I've been doing it now. I think I'm going on into my 4th year. Now I go every month.
That's what I thought. You're in there frequently.
I go every month by myself, but I always open it up for other voiceover people who might want to go, or really anybody who wants to go.
Oh, great.
I go for a few hours and I read and I do magic. By the way, that's another reason I started doing magic.
No kidding.
Or keeping up with it, because I realized after that first holiday at Mattel, you know, out of the 5 or 6 kids I read to, 3 or 4 of them were Jewish, and I'm reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I thought, man, I should probably bring some other books. Man, so I said, when's the next time we're coming? They said, next Christmas. And I went, well, let me talk to the staff. And they said, if you want to come once a month, you can come. I went, oh, well, great, I'll do it. And petrified, and it's very emotional. I thought, let me just give it a try, see how long I last. And I've lasted. But so now I have a wide assortment of books I bring, and they're different, and I try to theme it for the month, but it doesn't have to be. Some kids want stories. Some kids don't want stories at all. Some just want to talk. Some want to hear what voice I mean, that's the great thing with voiceover people. I brought George De Hoyle one time. You know, he's the voice of everything. But he's also the voice of American Idol.
Okay.
So he shows up, and he's mostly a promo trailer guy. I mean, mostly. But he's a fantastic guy. We show up together and walking room to room. I said, now, George, when we go in, I'm going to let them know, you know, who I am. And then I'm going to let them know how they might have heard me. And that I have played the Hulk one time, and I was Thor for a while. They might have heard my voice if they play this video game. I'll let them know, right? Yeah. You do the same. So I go and I go, hi, my name is Rick. I've been, you know, Thor, and I sound like this, from Midgard. And I do all the, and then I said, George, tell them what you do. Well, I don't know, I don't think you probably heard me in anything. Tell him something you've done. Let's see, ABC Family. Are you familiar with that? George, come on. He goes, the voice of American Idol. And the kid's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, like, tonight on American Idol. And they went berserk. They went crazy, which was great. It was great to see. They were so excited. So anyway, now I go frequently, and I bring all kinds of books. I bring the books that I read my kids, and we read or skim or talk or play. But there are some kids that don't speak English at all, or not talking. So that's when I started doing magic, because you don't really have to talk so much. Or a lot of the stuff I do, you don't have to talk at all. And then a lot of times you're gowned up. You know, you got a mask and a gown and gloves and stuff. So some tricks I can do with gloves now. It's neat. I mean, it's really
amazing.
Neat.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I feel that's the one that gives me room to be a jerk the rest of the month if I do something really, really cool one day.
It's the ham sandwich.
It is the ham sandwich.
You know, that's great. That's one of the beautiful things about this thing is that I remember Rich Telrico saying at one point about wanting to be a writing teacher I had back at Second City. Like, I want to be rich and I want to be anonymous. I still want to be able to go to Century City Mall and go buy popcorn and not have to stop and do stuff.
Right.
And you know, that's all well and good. I'm enough of a person. I like a little bit of notoriety. I like getting looked at.
Right.
But at the same time, I do feel like that wonderful magic trick of, you know, what you were just describing of him saying, I don't know if you know what I do. Well, maybe you might recognize this. Yeah. Boom. It's like, it's a Trojan horse of fun.
It is.
You know, it's like an explosion of confetti and balloons. And suddenly people are like, oh my God, you mean something to us in a way that we didn't know.
I mean, you should have seen, so the lineup, so yesterday was the annual holiday visit. We took a number of people. So Townsend Coleman is there, you know, he's the voice of the Tick and a billion other things. He's an original, Ninja Turtle. I mean, the guy's, you know, he's around. So we all walk in a room, and I'm like I'm with one guy, he's one of the voices of NFL. He does CBS, you know, sports, and he's just doing the voices, and people are just doing backflips, and it's so exciting. Cedering Fox goes with us sometimes. She's the voice of the Academy Awards. It's really neat. It's really neat. It's very fun to hear.
That's so great.
Jess Harnell.
Oh, Jess.
You know?
Yeah.
Some neat people show up, and
what a blast.
And they can, and we sing once in a while too. I know we don't have to, but some people sing, and sometimes they sing in character. It's great.
It's the best.
It's good times. It's good times.
So So you start doing, when did you make the transition to Los Angeles?
So I was doing The Lion King.
Yeah.
In New York, and then there was an opportunity to come do it in Los Angeles.
Oh,
to
really?
do it at the Pantages. We were playing at the same time.
I didn't know that The Lion King brought you out here.
Yeah, Lion King brought me out here. So I thought, I don't know. It turned out that my agents, my voiceover, I think my voice, yeah. No, not my voiceover, but my legit agents. That sounds terrible. My on-camera acting agents or my stage agents.
But in New York, they're called legit.
They're called legit.
Gotcha.
That sounds like the other ones are illegit. But
right.
no, the legit agents were bi-coastal, so it wouldn't affect my representation.
Great.
I had been flown out a number of times for pilot season for stuff, and it was kind of getting exciting. So it was maybe not a bad idea to spend a year or so,
checking it out.
See what happens.
Yeah.
So I agreed, and I came out and I did Lion King for the last 6 months of the run that it was at the Pantages, the original run, which was great. I lived in an apartment in Sherman Oaks.
You were Timon in that, or you were Scar, or who did you play in the Lion King?
I played not at the same time, but I played all the white people.
Oh, okay.
I played Timon, Pumbaa, Zazu, and Scar.
Okay,
which was great. I had a ball. So I came out to Los Angeles, and then I just stayed. I always think of George Carlin when he goes through that list. You've heard of that, right? He goes through why New York is so much better than L.A. And people say, then why do you live in L.A.? He goes, because the sun sets a block from my house.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That's why I'm here. It's lovely.
It really is.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And now we live, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
In fact, Kif helped me destroy my old kitchen. Wasn't that great?
That was a great day.
We just kind of got all testosterone, and we had hammers and wrecking bars and ripped apart my old kitchen.
And barbecue.
Fun. Yeah.
And it was a blast and really satisfying. And that feeling when Tamara walked into the house and saw all the work we had done.
Yeah.
We work with our voices.
Yeah.
We work with the ether.
That's right. So somehow this tactile banging and crashing, and that was fun.
It was really fun and satisfying.
And I'll have to just let your audience know. So as a treat afterward, even though he helped me, Kif gives me a gift of a throwing knife.
Oh, that's right.
Which is the most guy thing you could give. Here's a throwing knife and some wolf testicles. Go for it.
Have you done anything with the throwing knife?
Well, my child has one eye now.
No.
No, I hope to one day. I like it.
So set up just a piece of drywall in your studio.
Okay.
When your hand cramps from small magic.
Yes.
And
throw a knife.
Yeah, get a distance. Hold it by the blade.
Yeah.
And take about a step and a half back away from the drywall. Start small and work on sticking it. It is the most satisfying, crazy feeling.
The image I'm getting in my head is from The Jerk. Remember The Jerk? When his wife takes up knife throwing?
Oh, that's right.
Do you have a balloon? Put it in your mouth. That was great. Anyway.
Man, I stood on the side of a mountain in Tennessee chucking knives. I still can't believe that all 4 of those knives came home with me. I have a 3 set that I got from the God, this is such a crazy random thing, but from the mixer of the show. He was our location mixer, a guy named Darren Knight, and he had won the Academy Award for The Deer Hunter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he worked on Heaven's Gate. Huh. He worked on The Great Outdoors. He's worked on so many amazing old school pictures.
That's a variety of film.
Wide variety. Yeah. Darren, his father was a mixer.
Oh, neat.
And the boom guy, a guy named Charlie Bond, I think is out here. We're in touch on Facebook and stuff. He worked on The Great Outdoors. He said that John Candy, this is a side note, but would make dubs of celebrities at their worst. He had this great mixtape, and they always spent all of his time with the crew. At night they would party and hang out, and John Candy was always in the mix with them and stuff. It was just cool.
Don't you love John Candy?
Oh man,
I just love John Candy.
And that's one of the things that I really love about being around here, the stories and the history and of show people and the stuff that from Michigan I watched with, starry eyes and it just seems so far away.
Yeah.
But to be out and be in the middle of it,
crazy,
and all that
right?
stuff, it's great.
It's crazy and great. And great.
I know a lot about your, and maybe, I don't know if it's interesting to you or if you want to talk about it, but what did you do before you got to graduate school? I know your timeline, but what was your story? What did you do?
I mean, What did I do? I was just kind of an all-school guy. Like, I went to high school, and then when I graduated, I went to college. And when I got out of college, I went to grad school.
You went straight to graduate school?
I went straight to grad school. I mean, that's been my whole life, is school after school. And I don't think it was because I had a vision. It was just one of those things like, high school's ending soon. Gotta do something. And the first school I went to St. Joseph's University, which is a fine school and academically rigorous, far more rigorous than I could handle. But I was there for 2.5 years, and everyone was beautiful and top of their class and valedictorian, and they're just I was just kind of, I felt well out of my league. And I was Jewish. Like, what am I doing at this Jesuit institution? I must have been the only one. And by the way, I took Judaism. You had to have these religion credits. I had to take Judaism. I got a C. I mean, please. That was a
just means you're an average Jew.
And then
you're the average Jew.
Then I was dragged into an alley by a group of roving rabbis, and they beat the snot out of me. No, it was. But then I went to Temple University.
Oh, okay.
Where our, yeah. So, where I used to say, and our proudest graduate was,
yeah, right.
So, but anyway, I went there, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and we're about to graduate, and I'm going, and she goes, "Are you going to grad school?" I said, what sort of thing is that? Well, it's kind of like continuing education for a specific subject. Yep. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, wow.
Grad school. And there was something called IRTAs. Do you remember IRTAs? University Resident Theater Association?
I never went out for them, but I have a lot of, just because my trajectory was not straight theater. I was more like film too. I want to do all of it. I want to do improv. I want to do that. I don't know if I want to go to graduate school. I'm going to work as a mental health worker for a while after I get out of college and figure out what my life is going to be.
Well, you really had everything there.
I did. That's the thing. So I didn't go to IRTAs, but you prepared and
yeah. So that's what I did, and because my girlfriend at the time was doing it, I thought, well, okay, I'll do it too, and I did, and it was so interesting because, so IRTAs, for those of you who don't know, is if you're considering going to an acting graduate school or a theater-based conservatory, rather than visit and audition for every single school in the planet, they all get together in one place. Representatives from all those schools get together in one place, and you audition once, which is a great idea. And you pay a little bit of dough, and you audition once, and then you have callbacks at the place you audition, like it was at a hotel in New York.
Okay.
So it feels shady, like go up to room 109 for your callback.
All these young people just graduated from college.
Like, geez, gosh, all right.
Sure.
But what was fascinating is like the kind of energy that was going around that lobby, because right now, like you're saying, your trajectory is being decided right now.
Yes.
Like someone's going to go, Ohio University. Okay, there you go. Now your life is suddenly Ohio. Like I had callback to Ringling Brothers. Like I thought, if I had gone to that, I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but I don't know. It's kind of a fun what if kind of situation, but
sure.
it was bubbling. That lobby was bubbling with all kind of possibilities.
It's so exciting.
It was exciting.
If I had to do it all over again, I don't know that I would have done things incredibly differently.
Right.
But that experience.
It's a neat experience.
Yeah. And I feel different as someone who went to not necessarily inferior in a way, but there are certain things from a graduate school experience of text analysis and experience and introduction to all these great minds of theater that I still feel to a certain extent that I'm sprinting to catch up to. Like I had a conversation this morning with Sherry. I was working on trying to get a French accent for some audition, and my French accent is terrible, and I'm trying to figure it out. And it's like she's like, "Do you know IPA? Do you know that?" And I was like,
"Sherry's amazing at it too.
She really
She's really
is
good." Yeah,
and it was like, "I don't," and she was like, "Well, do your best." You know what I mean?
It is a bit like going to ninja school. It's very specialized things, and you learn you take period styles dance. Like, okay, I mean, you never know when you're gonna have to pull that out. But of course, you get stage combat. Dude, you would have loved that.
I got to do some stage combat I did Robin Hood
in
our local theater production. Yeah. 6 fights with quarterstaffs and swords.
Right.
Awesome.
It's a ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you got certified, right?
You got
certified in graduate school.
We did. It was great. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
I love how all these things do, even if you're like, man, I haven't had a dagger fight in forever, but that experience.
Oh, sure.
when you're in a room with a bunch of guys doing Avengers Assemble and you're trying to battle out, or
Oh yeah. Yeah, I break a sweat. I'm active.
What's that about? You have to be active when you're in the room with guys when you're doing.
I do. Here's some more Wasserman tips and tricks, stuff you already know, but I might as well say it. You know how they always say, if you smile during your read, you can hear the smile in your read, and it's true. You really can.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. If you frown in your read, we can hear your frown. If you grit your teeth, we can hear frustration. If you fold your arms, we hear you feeling stayed or frustrated. If you put your hands on your cheeks, you might feel worried. Put your hand on your heart, we can hear your sensitivity. All this stuff really does, it's not alchemy, it really does play out into your read. So when I'm doing like Walking Dead stuff, I duck my head down, I crunch my fists up, I huddle like I'm talking to survivors of the zombie apocalypse, and I go, tonight on The Walking Dead. Like that's what I'm doing. So it's a very, very physical thing for me, always. I do a tremendous amount of work, for urban things.
Okay.
Urban films. They call them urban hip hop films, like, Step Up and Step Up 2 and Bring the Noise and,
so do you do like?
I do trailers.
So you do do you do it like as a black narrator sort of thing, or is it?
I do it as an urban narrator.
I see.
That's what we call them. Urban.
Urban.
Whatever.
Gotcha.
But I do stuff for BET, and I certainly do stuff for VH1. They have a lot of kind of urban programming. And I have to be physical in the booth. Not that I'm dancing, but I change everything the way I move. It matters. Like when I did Mad Men, because we don't do it now.
Yeah.
When I did Mad Men, I would put one arm up. I would lean like Bugs Bunny. I would lean on my booth, inside my booth, and I would pretend to stir scotch with one finger, and I would pretend that the end of my Sennheiser 416 was a woman's ear. And then I would beckon to it and lean into it and go, tonight on Mad Men. And all I'm trying to do is seduce a woman. Now, I'm doing it physically. I mean, I've got my arm up and the whole thing. So, yes, it all plays into it. Everything I've learned kind of comes back
You're
into
doing
it.
promo and you're telling a story. And that idea of how you interpret promo as storytelling and contributing to the story.
Yes. I'm part of it. That's how I feel.
Yes.
And by the way, AMC has been awesome about that. Like they really give me room for that. Like we've got a new show. It's called Into the Badlands. It's about these things.
Yeah.
What does it sound like? So I get to be kind of part of establishing the sound, of course, with producers. And it's not just me. I'm not alone, but I love that, so I don't just feel like the talking head somewhere.
Yeah.
I have some opinion. This is what I talk about with clients a lot. Students, I mean.
Okay.
The difference between, I don't know if this is universal. This is just what I've always called it, but the difference between your voice and your read. So for me, your voice has always been the sound that comes out of your body, through your throat. I should say that. That's another sound, but the sounds that you could produce using your lips, tongue, teeth, diaphragm, throat. Okay, that's your voice. Your read includes your voice, that is the sound you make, but it also includes your opinions and your sense of humor and your rhythms and your musicality and your eccentricities and all your quirks. All that stuff is in your read. And I think what agents and producers want is your read. It's not enough just to, like you were saying, just to have your voice present. Here, this is how I sound. Okay, but when you're selling a product or when you're talking about a show, I kind of want to know how you feel about it. I'm listening for that. I want to hear how you say it. Or you might get this. People will say to me, hey, I would book a lot of work if I sounded like you. And I always say, no, you wouldn't. I'm booking that work. I wouldn't book work if I try to sound like you because you'll book your work.
Yes. You
sound like you with all of your opinions, sense of humor, eccentricities, all that stuff. And that becomes your sound, your brand, if we want to get businessy. And I think that's incredibly important to establish.
I really love that distinction between voice and read.
That works for me.
That makes a lot of sense
universal,
to me too.
But for me, we can work on your voice. And that's very mechanical. There's exercises we can do and work on your instrument. And that's a very different thing for me than to work on your read. Which has more to do with storytelling and allowing your opinions and all that good stuff, all that gold to come forward. It's as though all of all of that network of things that make up who you are becomes this kind of big mesh filter. And everyone's got a different filter. Yeah. And then everybody gets the copy. Everybody gets the same copy. And if you imagine that copy just being a pitcher of liquid, and that pitcher, it's the same for everybody, gets poured through everybody's individual filter. And what the result is entirely different for everybody, or should be.
Yes.
It should be. That's what's exciting about it. It would be boring if everybody poured through the filters and they all sounded the same.
Right.
Or they all sounded like Don LaFontaine, something like that, or Gary Owens. That's.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of times people are trying to make those same choices.
Yeah. If I could advise people of anything, and this really kind of takes you to it almost feels like life coaching a bit, but you have to, and by the way, I'm not at the end of that journey by any means. I am still, it's a chase. It's a lifelong chase.
Amen.
But, getting to know who you are and what is your sense of humor? What are your beliefs and what do you feel strongly about? And, all of those things that make up your voice, you have to be good with so you can let them come out in your read.
Yeah.
That's really the gold of your read.
Yeah.
Unless you're a voice match person, which is, that's a whole different animal.
It's a different animal in lots of respects, without a doubt. But I do feel like, I just did I can't say. I just did a voice match for someone that is that normally doesn't get done by other people.
Huh.
And there was a lot of copy to match. So you filter through not only the voice of that person, but then making what if choices for that character and tying into what's been done in the previous incarnations of that character. So trying to match all those things.
That's a lot to consider.
It's a lot. And then to really, and then to let it all go and just make it sound like it's casual and play.
That's what I always say. Running a process. So you get a piece of copy. You've got to have some kind of process.
Yeah.
You do whatever work. You have to read it a few times. By the way, I always say read your copy out loud. It's sheet music, essentially. You don't sit and read sheet music in your head. It's meant to be out loud. So you do it out loud. You do all this work. You do all that work outside of the booth. And when you get in the booth, all you do is play. That's how I feel. Work outside the booth, play in the booth. I don't know. That's more appealing to me anyway.
Yeah.
I'd like to just have a good time in there because the booth could be a scary place for some people, you know? I mean, it is intimidating, especially if you're doing like promos where things are rigidly timed to the 10th of a second. Good. Now make it sound relaxed. Okay.
Yeah. Give us faster, but make it sound relaxed like you're not trying to push.
Right. And remember, we're feeding your kids. Okay. Okay. And relax. So, I want to make sure as much as possible I'm playing in the booth and I'm doing my work outside.
We've talked a lot about process promo, in particular promo, and I know that you do quite a bit of that. The other thing that I hear you most frequently in my house has been in Batman video games, and being a variety of thugs and stuff. What's your approach to Thug number 7? I mean, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times the copy doesn't give you anything to latch onto. You kind of have to tell that story.
Yeah, you know, and the other thing is too, you're not in the room with all the other thugs, 1 through 6.
You go in and do a 2 to 4 hour session over at Warner Brothers and away you go.
So you don't know what everybody else is doing. So at moments like that, if I'm not playing like a name character, you know, then I have to rely on whoever's running the session to tell me, you know, we had 3 guys that are really, really deep. And we got 1 guy who sounds very, very Brooklyn. We got a guy who sounds a little bit Long Island. Where do you think you can be? So now, okay, that helps me.
Yes.
That helps me.
How can I contrast what you guys already have in your stuff?
Yeah. Especially if you're just doing kind of like a library of sounds and everybody's making the same sounds. It's not like your character's saying anything different than the other thugs.
It's like, boy, it sure is cold.
Right.
Think the Batman's going to find us?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But it's all good fun. And it, you know, it's always a good time. It's a lot of barking and screaming but you know, special considerations here. I have to make sure that I do any of that kind of stuff the end of the day, Friday.
Yeah.
I can't do it first thing Monday morning because I'm wrecked.
Do you have a recovery process, vocal rest, I imagine?
Mostly vocal rest and, you know, warm liquid and that kind of thing. But humming. I've got every kind of tincture and lozenge. At the end of the day, I just have to stop talking.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. Yeah. Also, exercise. And I don't know how much you talk about exercise, but exercise, I find, so I like to run.
Yeah.
But I have recently discovered, if anybody has an answer to this, call in. Do you have phones here?
No, we don't. They're on their own.
All right, so don't call me. Or call Kif. Let him know. So I run, but now I feel like I can't run and then do voiceover, especially when it's cold out, because it changes my voice.
Huh.
All that mouth breathing when I'm running, when I'm done, it changes the quality of my voice.
Is it drying you out?
It probably is drying me out. It makes my voice tighter. Sometimes it actually makes it higher.
Huh.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange. But yeah, just vocal rest time, the weekend, usually by Monday.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it totally makes sense. You're generally deeper in the morning when you first wake up after not only the rest, but just not using your vocal cords for a bit.
Yeah.
So I imagine that exercise would absolutely affect it, but it's something I'd never even considered.
So now, if I'm going to run, I have to either run on the weekend or run after I know I'm done with all my voiceover.
Wow.
Which is a promo guy you never really know.
How late? I've heard the ISDN box kick on at 9 o'clock at night sometimes. Yeah.
So, that's just part of the game. That's just part of the game. There's things called grid changes that happens with a certain amount of regularity where, AMC thinks they're going to show this particular movie, but then something happens, then decide this movie is going to play instead. Grid change, got to change it. Or they're moving this from Tuesday night to Sunday night or whatever. And you have to re-record things. And sometimes these decisions are made on the fly. And it's like, get Rick in the booth. Yeah. So that's generally how it is. Like us tucking today has been scheduled for a while.
Right.
My agents know just where I am. And as soon as I get out of here, I'm doing ESPN. I'm doing an ISDN with ESPN. That was hard to say. Whew.
Oh man, dude, fascinating. Well, let me. Do you mind doing the comic book thing? Can I throw you a comic book? Or how are we on time?
I could just do a quick little deal. Yes.
I'll tell you what. In the interest of time, so you don't rush yourself.
Yeah.
You've spoken not only faster than most folks, but also given us just a ton of spectacular information.
Oh, good. I hope so. Yeah.
I think so. And it's certainly been enriching for me to be able to sit down with you and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, because we never do.
We never do. We talk about life and movies and theater things we want to do and it's cool things. So I feel like, we've covered lots of bases. I know that you teach. If someone wants to study with you, how can they do that?
Oh, well, funny you should say that. I brought my business card right here.
I noticed your business card over there.
So in case you're interested, my company is called Bookable. Bookable Voiceover Coaching and Demos. The website is www.bookablevo.com. We got a phone number too, is 323-86-DEMO-7. But anyway, it's great. Everything's really fun. I'd say 70 to 75% of my students are through Skype, Zoom. They're not even in the country, some of them. I mean,
wow.
So that's really great. But of course, if you can get in the studio, get in the studio with me. Like that's the best way. We just kind of get in that booth and get the microphone in front of you. And really do it.
That's great. And you focus on a variety of different processes at whatever skill level.
It's kind of wherever they are. But mostly it's that I can only take a couple students a day. That's what it's like. And so I'm a snob. I'm a snob when it comes to students. I will only work with people I think have a real fighting chance at doing something that's really going to take this. If you're like an enthusiast and you're interested in it, like I've always wanted to be in a cartoon, but I've got a good job, I'm not going to do it. I'm not the guy for you. It's probably someone else. And I have no problem with that. I mean, I have no problem if you're an enthusiast or just a hobbyist or you want to, like I want to take crocheting and taekwondo and a little voiceover. I'm not going to use any of it, but I just want to learn it. I'm not your guy.
Understood.
But I think it's great. I have no problem with it. It's just not me. I want people to apply this stuff and use it and have a career and, have a living wage off it. Like that's what I want.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say that my students do.
That's awesome.
I feel really, really good about that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're good people.
That's great. Well, dude, how can people find you on social media and stuff? Do you have a social media presence? Are you
I guess I do. I mean, Bookable is on Facebook.
Okay.
Rick Wasserman is on Facebook as a voiceover guy, if you're interested. I don't know. I don't post anything.
I know.
What do I'm in the booth today. Tomorrow, though, I'll be in the booth.
Right.
I've got nothing else to say there. But, But yeah, check out the Bookable website. We got a really cool commercial on there. The demos are really great. I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very proud of it. Yeah.
Dude.
And Kif, thank you so much for doing this and for having me. This has been fun.
Dude, thank you for coming on and just like I said, just hanging out and talking and it was just a blast. And thank you, whoever you are. All of you, some of you, everybody for listening and tuning in. And we'll be back next week with more All Over Voiceover. I'm Kif VH with Rick Wasserman. Peace.
Bye.
This has been All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating. It truly helps. Follow me on Twitter at KifVH or on Instagram at KifVH or on Vero at KifVH. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Claim victory and depart the field.
Werewolf?
There.